Hello everybody and welcome back to ChäoS. Let's go ahead and continue. And let me go ahead and get my timer started as well. Second, I've gotten this started before I clicked record, but oh well. Oops, wrong folder. Wrong folder again. I swear that folder moved from where I originally had it, but maybe it didn't. It's just been so long now since it's been like a good 2-3 weeks since I last recorded something. I'm just misremembering where I put the folder. Let's go ahead and get started. So, roughly a day later, I was still immersed in base lard. Depriving myself of time to eat, I single-mindedly focused on erasing Nishijo Takumi and existing as Nighthard. Also, actually, real quick before I forget, I've changed the filters I use a little bit on OBS just to see if I get a nicer sounding audio. So maybe feel free to leave a comment letting me know how you think the audio for this part is compared to the previous two parts. Just let me know which one you maybe prefer so I can adjust. In ESO, I was a god. There was no need to be frightened by demons. Everyone revered me. I always thought about how wonderful it would be if I could stay forever in such a comforting world.
エンジェルハイロ来たこれ超レアすげえこれは早速使わないと装備おーキャラの見た目変わったすげえこれすげえ見て見ろってグリムあナイトハルト自重しろうっせえ死ねえよ負け組ちょっと街に戻って見せびらかしてこようかな
Having gotten my paws on an ultra-rare item I'd been searching for forever, I was in hyper mode. My depression had been completely blown away. I'm telling you, an angel halo is a phantasmical item with a drop rate of 0.0001%. Its only effect is to change your character's appearance, and it doesn't have any practical use. But on the flip side, since those around you could tell at a glance if you had one, you'd be the object of many envious stares.
やったナイトハルトがまた一歩神に近づいたこら開けろ
What a racket. Who the heck's been pounding at my door? So much for wallowing in the joy of snagging a rare item. Don't get in my way. That voice. I became dejected the second I heard that familiar voice. No doubt about it, the voice's owner was the assassin sent out by my parents, my little sister Nanami. This was going to be a headache. Shit. A stormy period of time was about to start. I really didn't want to open it, but if I didn't, she'd run back to my parents and they'd tell me, "You should give up on living alone after all. Come back home." This building's owner was, by and large, my dad, so he could put enough pressure on me to chase me out without so much as breaking a sweat. It doesn't get any more unreasonable than this. Shut up! Don't wail so loud. He was still violently banging on the door from outside. The walls of my container housing were made up of a single sheet of iron plating, so sounds echoed around the room to an amazing extent. She knew that and was doing it on purpose. Helpless, I released the inner padlock and opened the door.
あ、やっと出てきた。生存確認。
This lolly-bodied runt is my little sister, 1 year younger.
呼んでるんだから返事くらいしてよね。お兄死んじゃったかもって思ったじゃん。
Every time we see each other, she starts complaining. As could be seen from how she stood with her hands on her hips and her head thrown back, she was a cheeky little brat. Her existence brought me 100 disadvantages and not one bit of benefit.
うわ、相変わらず部屋の中汚な。
Nanami hopped on inside without obtaining my consent. It's because she's my little sister that she gets ahead of herself like this. When I see those guys who mow over little sister types, I want to tell them at the top of my lungs, you've got to battle with the reality of it. Well, sister or not, I didn't think she had a bad face. Her kind of childish-looking face might be smack in the strike zone for lolly lovers. As her blood-related brother, though, none of that mattered. Rather, it made me think of her as being babyish. No way I would fap to her. Ah, by the way, I don't mind lolly types, as long as they're 2D.
カビクサお兄の部屋って相変わらず不潔掃除しろっていつも言ってるじゃん
Oh, I thought she was done. Whoops. Well, you should have had enough time to read the dialogue anyway.
まあどうせ掃除してくれる彼女なんかいないだろうしお兄ってズボラだからこうなるのは目に見えてるけどさこうなったらやっぱりナナが掃除しに来てあげるしかないかな
だが断る
なんでよ
お前に部屋荒らされたくない
When she said but why, there should have been a question mark, not just an exclamation mark. Because but why implies a question. Obviously, yes, you can have both. There's a term for both an exclamation mark and a question mark. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head, though.
きっとそれがわざわざ生存確認しに来てあげてる妹に言うセリフ
God, that's a mouthful. You yourself don't show your brother an ounce of respect. Besides, no one asked you to come check on my survival.
まったくなんでこんな面倒ばっかりかけさせる兄弟と血つながってるんだろうたまに嫌になっちゃうよはあなんか喉乾いちゃった飲み物もらうね
Advancing further and further into the room, Nanami opened the fridge without asking permission.
コーラしかないじゃんミルクティーとか用意しといてよ
Do you want to do a good or bad? And again, I think some of these choices also technically have a neutral. I think I recall seeing something about that. If you make literally no choice and just continue with the dialogue, some choices you end up with basically a neutral choice. But I don't know if every choice has that or just some, and just whether or not that's actually even accurate, because it's been years since I'd even really bothered looking into it, so I don't recall, actually, to be completely honest. Shoot, I know I was planning to just sort of do whatever choice I felt like making. I don't really feel like trying to... I don't have an idea of what I want to do here. Damn it, I don't have a dice or... I do have a coin, though. So, let's say heads, we do a good delusion. Tails, we do a bad delusion. Tails. So, bad delusion this time.
知らんがな
しょうがないな
Or, well, I guess,
コーラもらうね
or, well, I guess technically not necessarily bad delusion, just bad choice. You know, the bad ending type choice, essentially. As usual, if this plays out the way I think it does, I think I might have made that exact same choice the first time around. Whatever. As usual, it looked like she had no intention of getting my approval first. Yeah, that's a dirty coin. Taking a plastic bottle of Coke, one that, by the way, I drunk from earlier out of the fridge, she opened the lid, hesitated for a second, then gulped it straight down. Damn it, just who did that Nanami think she was? Someone like you deserves to drink too much Coke, ruin your stomach, and get carried off to the hospital. If so, I'd be able to get by without you threatening my peaceful time to myself. Would it ever really happen? Yes, if I'm recalling correctly, I think the first time I played through this before it got axed because of technical difficulties, I think we made that bad delusion choice. And when she drinks out of it, it's like poisoned or something like that type of thing is what her delusion was. The second I thought I heard Nanami suddenly, second I thought I heard Nanami suddenly let out a groan. I feel like that's supposed to say the second I thought that, I heard Nanami suddenly let out a groan. The plastic bottle slipped out of her hand, sending Coke splashing all over the floor. It got on the manga magazines and CDs I'd left down there. I started to tell her not to contaminate my room, but instead I took a startled breath. Nanami's eyes peeled wide open as she pressed painfully at her own neck, her mouth puckered open and shut like that of a carp.
Nanami?
She spat out blood. Red, no, more blackish than red. Blood mingled with the Coke on the floor. Nanami collapsed weakly on top of it. Her whole body convulsed, and she began writhing in anguish. She dug her nails into her neck as though to tear it to bits. Careless of the fact that her skirt had flipped up, and I could see her panties, Nanami kicked around convulsively. It was a flippant analogy, but I thought blurrily that she was like a fish thrown up on deck. Not knowing what to do, I covered my ears. But even then, I could hear my little sister's dying screams. Her face plastered with tears and drool and blood, Nanami finally stopped shuddering.
Nanami?
I tentatively called out to her. No reaction. She laid splashing, not splashing. She laid there splayed through unbecomingly. The smell of ammonia stung my nose. Had it been Nanami who pissed herself, or had it been me? I tried poking her lightly in the shoulder. She didn't so much as twitch. It made me feel a little ill, but I brought my face as close to her mouth as I could. She wasn't breathing. She was dead. Nanami was dead. It resembled the deaths by poison you often see in TV dramas. Then the dots connected. I had poisoned the Coke to kill Nanami. Of course I had.
なぜ殺した？
Though I'd imagined it myself, it certainly made me feel pretty bad. In other words, I'd overdone it. No matter how impertinent Nanami might act, I shouldn't have envisioned such a realistic manner of death for her. I should have stopped at something like whacking her with a wet noodle.
どうしたの?
Having finished drinking her Coke, Nanami looked over at me curiously.
なんか顔色悪いけど?
I shook my head a little and said,
ごめん。
何が?
とにかくごめん。
Though it may have been part of a daydream, I put you through some awful stuff. I'm sorry. But that goes to show That goes to show how much resentment's been building inside me in response to your insolence. I'd like you to understand that.
別に謝らなくてもいいのに。ミルクティーがないくらいで、ナナ怒んないよ。
While I do think the quality of the translation has improved somewhat, it does still have some grammatical errors. Very clearly. Missing words, things of that nature.
それに、なんだかんだ言って、コーラも好きだし。
Sometimes misspelled words, you know. In an earlier line, I didn't point it out, but an earlier line in this scene, it said extend when it was supposed to be extent. Ah, wait. She drunk the rest of my Coke. I take back what I said earlier. I had no reason to apologize to her. She ought to cut her stomach open and kill herself.
もう帰れよ。
She confirmed that I was still alive, so she had no reason to stay here. Why did she have to come up into my room Why did she have to come up into my room each and every time?
お兄、冷たい。
It looked like my words had hit her where it hurt. Glaring at me, she pouted. It would be a hassle to deal with her, so I looked away.
せっかく心配して様子を見に来てあげてるのに。
You gotta stop reading a little bit too fast. I sort of get ahead of myself and end up screwing up the dialogue.
お兄ってずっとここに引きこもって誰とも喋らずに一日を終えちゃうことだってあるんでしょ？女の子と話す機会だってどうせ全くないんだよね。
Shut up. Stop jeering at me. I'm not into 3D girls, so there's no need for me to talk with them.
言ってみればお兄と話す女の子はナナだけってことじゃん。だからさ、もっとナナのこと大事にしてよ。そしたら女の子との接し方もちょっとは分かってくるはずだし。
As she spoke, Nanami picked up one of my figurines, Hikaru, from Suicide for the Light and scrutinized her intently. Don't unilaterally decide to touch one of my wives? I'll knock your lights out if you get fingerprints on her.
あと、お兄は自分のことにもっと気を使って。こんなお人形さんにうつつを抜かしてる場合じゃないよ。ナナはお兄の死体の第一発見者になんかなりたくないからね。
And again, I thought she was done. But the voice line continued nicely enough. What on earth was this sister of mine trying to say? Lately, she'd somehow started to give off the same kind of feeling as our mom, which is to say, in conclusion, she's still obnoxious.
いいから帰れよ。
そんなに帰れ帰れ言わないでよ。お兄のバカ。まだこっちには用事が残ってるの。
She was getting more and more hysterical. If I pissed her off any more than this, she'd go out of control. Chill out, self.
携帯買いに行こう。
はあ？
What's she saying?
お父さんがそうしろって。お兄が携帯持てばいつでも生存確認できるじゃん。
I mean, no. Not really. I mean, very clearly our main character here, whose name is right now completely escaping me for some reason, he seems like the kind of person who probably wouldn't even open the message, so it wouldn't even be marked as read or anything. And of course, we're talking about what, early mid-2000s Japan? I suppose depending on what you're using as your messenger, it might have a message read notification, but I don't know if that was particularly common at that time, to be honest. Either way, again, our main character here, very clearly to me at least, seems like the kind of person who just would not read the message in the first place, so you would never know if our character is still alive or not, just because we own a cell phone.
お金はナナが預かってきたから今から買いに行こうよ。今時携帯持ってない人なんていないよ。時代に取り残されちゃうよ。
Shut up, you trend-chasing high school girl. You're much weaker than me when it comes to being informed. I've got the net. Granted, it was a given for contemporary high schoolers to have cell phones, but I didn't own one. I didn't have any opportunities to use one. There was no one for me to call or text. I didn't want to spend money on something I wouldn't use.
だから行こう。
Nanami returned the figure to its shelf and peered at my face.
どうせお兄は機種とかわかんないだろうからナナと同じ機種にしちゃいなよ。
Along with her words, she took out her own cell phone. She took her own cell phone out of her bag and held it out toward me, as if she were offering me a pillbox.
ほら、これがナナの。色が可愛いでしょ。ついでだからストラップも同じのあげるよ。
I'll be honest, this particular image here is actually a little too bright on my monitor for me. Like, holy crap. It almost seems like I'm looking at a pure white screen. Oh, it seems like. It's very bright, these colors here.
うわ、なんという手抜きキャラ。
Well, dangled down in the form of her cell phone strap was a bizarre mascot character. On top of that, it looked awful, as if an amateur had designed it. Dude, this wasn't anywhere near the level of lazily made or disturbing but cute.
手抜きじゃないもん。ゲロカエルンはこういうデザインなの。今すっごく流行ってるんだからね。
I mean, he almost looks more like a knockoff of the Geico Gecko, to be honest. Like someone wanted to make the Geico gecko, but they don't quite know how to draw a gecko, so they end up with this sort of amalgamation.
はあ、女子高生の流行なんてお兄が知ってるわけないか。そういうとこを直せば少しは女子と会話成立すると思うよ、きっと。
That's why I'm telling you to shut up, trend worshipper. What is this Garo froggy crap? Logically speaking, no matter how you look at it, this kind of thing would never start a fad. How sad for her, failing to realize that she's being controlled by the media.
っていうか今はゲロカイルンの話じゃなくて、いいから携帯買いに行こうよ。あ、別にお揃いがいいとか言ってるわけじゃないからね。家族で同じ機種だと基本料金が割引されるサービスがあるからだよ。
That is a very weird business practice. That families have to get the exact same model to get some sort of discount on their plan. The concept of family plans makes sense. Perfect sense to me. But the idea that they would need to have the exact same model, not so much, to be honest. That doesn't quite stick with me, to be honest.
家族で持ってないのはお兄だけなんだからね。
いらない。
なんで？お金はお父さんが出してくれるんだよ。
必要ない。
If anything, it would only get in the way. If I had a cell phone, Mom would make sure to call me every single day. If I ignored her, she'd obviously send Nanami out as her assassin again. In short, it turned into more of a hassle than it already was before, and I'd have to be even more careful. I couldn't put up with that.
もう信じらんないよ、このバカ鬼。もう帰る。
Also, that would have to be a really good discount to justify adding another phone to the plan as well.
ああ、そうしてくれ。
Unless you're doing some sort of like get 3 or like buy 3 get 1 free type thing with lines. Whatever. I opened the door so Nanami could go outside, but she didn't move. Shoulders shaking with anger, she burst out at me.
ほんとバカ、アホバカ鬼。駅まで送ってくれるとかしてよ。
嫌だね。
Why did I have to see her off today? I'd never done so in any of the other times she dropped by.
だって最近殺人事件とかで物騒じゃんか。こういう場合心配するのが兄弟ってもんでしょ。
For an instant, yesterday's events seemed about to revive at the back of my mind, and I frantically shook my head, sending that gruesome spectacle flying away.
どうでもいいし。
Surely the new-gen perpetrator wasn't so idle and curious as to attack a babyish kid like Nanami.
ありえない。ナナが死んでもいいって言うんだ。
Nanami was on the verge of tears. Looked like my words had seriously gotten her down. Serves you right. That's what you get for disturbing my peace. This is my quiet little form of revenge. How would you like them apples? The apostrophe's in the wrong spot for that. The word is howd. No, actually, no, it's in the right spot. Never mind. I'm an idiot. It's in the right spot.
バカ、死んじゃえ。お兄なんか猟奇的に殺されちゃえ。
Pelting me with those parting lines, Nanami pushed me out of the way and hurtled out of the room. That stormy period of time had finally come to an end. The room went silent as soon as Nanami left. It had been like this after all. Or, it had to be like this after all. This was my base. I couldn't let anything go on here that wasn't to my tastes. Seated in front of my PC, I moved the mouse minutely to make the Sarah screensaver on my monitor go away. If I had to drink the Coke left on the table straight from the bottle, or I tried to drink the Coke left on the table straight from the bottle, but it was empty.
しまった。 これ、ナナミがさっき飲んだやつだ。
Ugh, that sucks. I had an indirect kiss with my little sister. If Nanami were a little cuter, I might have been able to adapt this eroge-esque situation, but that personality of hers only made me go flaccid. I put the lid back on the Coke bottle and threw it at the giant garbage bag that sat in the corner of my room. Instead of going in the bag, it bounced off the wall and rolled under the bed. Meh, whatever. Let's see. Better get back to immersing myself in ESO. I had to forget about reality and its aggravations ASAP. In truth, though, I was only able to stay in Baselard for one day before my time there had to be interrupted. The moment I stepped outside early in the morning, my recovering nerves plummeted back into the worst shape imaginable. Why did I have to go to school?
なんで今日なんだよ。最低最悪だ。
But I couldn't take the day off. Take even a single day off, and abnormalities would emerge in the system imposed by my minimum attendance shift chart. Then I wouldn't be able to graduate.
卒業って。何を卒業するって言うんだよ。
It was something I decided on myself, but I couldn't help griping about it. While passing through Shoto's high-class residential district, I came to an abrupt realization. For a while now, I'd been sensing someone's gaze. Unusually, though, it wasn't God's gaze. My neck muscles weren't growing twitchy. As I rounded the corner, I used my eyes alone to look behind me. Without turning my head for a second, I glimpsed a girl wearing the Suime uniform. Could it be the demon from the day before yesterday? I immediately lost my calm. My heart began beating wildly. A supreme tension controlled my movements, making me walk jerkily. The serene morning scenery metamorphosized, leaving me with the sense that everything around me was rejecting me. Birds chirped atop telephone wires, and I could faintly hear the relaxed background music of morning news programs playing in the houses I was passing. In the midst of this vista that seemed like it couldn't possibly have less to do with a murder case, I was on the verge of picturing myself dying hideously. No, get a grip. I hadn't clearly identified her face. Also, if she were a Suime student, it would be natural for her to keep following after me. Our destination was the same after all. Okay then. At a spot from which I could get to school simply by continuing straight ahead, I turned to the right instead. I was anxious about what might be behind me, but I fervently suppressed the urge to turn around and attempted to act natural as I carried out my plan. Heart pounding, I went on walking. After having continued for about another minute, I whipped back around with all my might. Our eyes were about to meet, so I hastily faced forward again. Why was she following me? This road was obviously the long way to school. In the end, was she really tailing me? In any case, I didn't recognize her face. The fact that she was wearing glasses made it instantly clear that she wasn't the demon from the day before yesterday. The glasses aren't the thing that should tell you that. The hair color should have been. That alone was enough to make me feel relieved. At this rate, I might as well hurry up and head for school. If I had to cancel my daily routine of eating breakfast in the park, but it couldn't be helped.
くそ、女子 A め。
To me, your existence is no more than the equivalent of passerby 1 or girl A, so don't stick your nose in my business. Girl A, who appeared to be tailing me, vanished at the school's entrance. It would seem that our final destination differed. She had gone in the direction of the seniors' classrooms. Was the whole being tailed thing just a result of me overthinking everything? But there was an undeniable something off about the fact that she'd follow me when I made a detour. Was she trying to torment me? Had I done something to earn her spite? No, I hadn't. There's no way I had, since at school my existence is like air. Then what could possibly be her goal? Okay, my timer should be going off in just a moment. Yeah. It had less than a minute left. So this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode. At only about 30 minutes. which granted is right in line with the way my timer is supposed to go off anyway. But yeah, granted, this being a slightly shorter episode than like the last episode, will be more than made up for in the future with other episodes, because my plan for this series is set a timer for 30 minutes and don't end the episode until we get finished with whatever scene we're currently in. So a lot of episodes will typically go longer than the 30 minutes, but this time, not the case. So I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have Patreon and a Discord. You can find links to those down below in the description. I do recommend joining the Discord if you want to stay updated on channel happenings. That is my go-to place for posting about that type of stuff. Sometimes I'll remember to post channels related things over on like my Twitter or on the YouTube community page, but typically I don't remember to do that. So I would highly recommend you join the Discord if you want to stay updated on that type of stuff. And for the Patreon, if you enjoy the content on the channel, that is the easiest and best way to help support the channel. For as little as $1 a month, you'll get early access to all of my videos, and that helps the channel out immensely. So I will see you all next time, but until then, goodbye and farewell.